Hello everyone, and welcome to a game called It Paints Me. Let's go ahead and start. There are 3 endings in this game. Every night I find myself alone in the studio, curtains drawn tight, my neat row of paints, palette and brushes in the same place on the drawer by the easel. The canvas upon it sits, as always, unfinished, Mary's half-painted face frozen in a silent song. It's late out, as it always is when I awaken here. Marie is nowhere to be found. She must be at the theater. Even when the curtains fall and the stage lights dim, the night is forever young to its star sopranos. I'll always wait outside her dressing room, roses in hand, scores of the other bright-eyed admirers spilling through the halls, though she alone was mine, and I was hers. It's cold, bitterly cold tonight. But still, I draw the curtains and open the windows wide. There's a stench in the room, deep and damp and sickly sweet, that I can't ever seem to be rid of. Besides that, the fumes from the linseed oil made my head spin. Like every night, I measure out my paints, arranging the small dabs of color on my palette from the lightest to darkest. Titanium white and cadmium yellow to corpse brown and lamp black. I wet my brush with oil and gently start mixing the pigments. It feels just a little bit like magic watching them swirl and mix, forming new colors from old. Oh, I will paint her hair. I blend the deep dark red on my palette as I envision her hair in my mind's eye. Marie rarely ever bound her locks in fashionable plaits or ringlets, not even on her wedding day. I remember how her glossy black waves almost shimmered beneath her veil. The color on my palette is as dull as mud. I sigh and blend it into the black background instead. I apply my paint with a generous dab of oil, but it seems I didn't have to. The canvas is still wet from the last night and the night before. I must have painted and repainted the same background countless times. To say it's difficult to paint by lamplight, my muse nowhere in sight, is an understatement, of course. But lately these nightly hours are the only time I find myself able to lift my brush. I stop every few strokes.
Spirits at odds.
I had joked that the pain that forced me away from the tailor's shop meant I could finally return to my paintings, at the very least. I was never any good at humor. Marie had sensed my worries, consoled me sweetly in her voice that could charm stone to life.
Oh, Sam, don't worry. I have roles lined up for months. Go ahead and paint. We can still live comfortably.
It hurt, a small part of it did. Beyond the physical, beyond the elements to seek her permission. To be able to care for my darling the way I had when we were young, brimming with talent, but crushingly unknown. Well, she had been. I was, and still am, nothing. But perhaps finally it would now be my turn to bring my vision to the world. If only it didn't hurt so damned much. Time passes, and I still don't manage more than a few strokes, a small patch of dark over an already wet canvas. Or perhaps time hadn't passed at all. The broken clock on the wall would suggest as much. Perhaps the seconds had lain still, the world outside unchanging, and I, the only thing that moves. Have I moved? Is repeating the same brushstrokes like a clockwork dull movement? I shiver and sigh. Perhaps sleep would be a better endeavor. Perhaps the next night will meet more success. I stand, setting aside my paints and palette, and slowly move to shut the windows. I stop. There, out in the front garden, barely lit by street lamp, stands a figure that can only be Marie. She bids goodbye to another figure, tall and broad-shouldered, and then she laughs, a beautiful laugh, a heartfelt laugh, and embraces him before he makes his reluctant exit on a carriage stopped by the gate. For a moment, I don't know what to think. A friend? A co-star, perhaps? That amiable tenor she mentioned now and then. I didn't see his face, but Marie's social circle had only eclipsed my own. It must be. But why would he come to our home? Why would she laugh that way? In the garden, in the midst of walking to the front door, hummed to herself, Marie suddenly looks up for a moment. Her eyes go wide, and she blinks as if shaking herself from a daze. I instinctively step back from the windows. Perhaps it's guilt that makes me do so. Marie is finally home, and, oh, I missed her so. How could the first thing I think upon seeing my darling be the worst thoughts my mind could conjure? For the first time in many, many nights, I feel just well enough to leave the studio. I'll prepare Marie a pot of her favorite chamomile tea. I'll listen as she tells me of the nights of the theater, the 1,000 small anecdotes she never runs out of, and maybe, just maybe, ask her again to sit for a portrait for me, like she used to. The house feels larger than it used to. Perhaps I was shut in the studio too long. Still, how could I quickly become a stranger to my own home? The memories are fuzzy, the years blur together like a wash of oil colors. My mother and I, carrying our sparse luggage, stepping inside for the first time. My stepfather laughing, his elbows on the breakfast table, chattering over something he'd read in the paper. Then, silent hallways and empty rooms. And then, myself welcoming my new bride to these solitary halls, hanging our newly taken portraits above the mantel. The walls are barren now. I fill the walls in the dark, leaving sticky trails of paint behind, tracing the places where I used to hang. The paintings. The paintings I'd framed, the seaside landscape I painted on our honeymoon, the watercolor sketch of Marie that couldn't hope to capture the sheen of her hair, the still life of candles and flowers that had wilted because I took so long to finish. Even the painting of roses in a vase, the first gift I've ever given to her.
I wanted to bring you some flowers, but I was afraid they would wilt before I saw you next.
You painted them. Oh, they're beautiful, Sam.
Why does it sound like it's in some sort of recording? The naked walls stare blankly at me. Confused, but with nowhere to go, I continue through the house. As I walk, I pass by the furniture my stepfather left me, the shelves and tables that always seemed so large and grand as a boy, now missing or mantled in thick white linen. They remind me of corpses on a hospital table, lying dead still, covered in sheets. Marie? I try to call out, but phlegm blocks my throat. I cough long and drawn and wet, and then once more attempt to voice her name. Marie! It slicks off my tongue like a serpent uncoiling. I had always loved her name, so tender and sweet, free of harsh syllables. Marie. It was a name like an impressionist fleur, painted in soft strokes with a fine oil brush. It was the greatest joy in the world to join my name to hers. Silence fills the halls, a long drawn-out silence, a held breath. Finally, my darling answers.
Sam. Is this a dream?
Is it? I cough again, another long, wet trail dripping from my lips.
Is it a good dream, darling?
I don't know. It feels like a nightmare.
Does it?
An awful, wretched nightmare.
Why would it? What is it? I limp towards the sound of her voice, so musical, so lovely, even the brink of her tears. Don't cry, darling, I want to say, but thick, syrupy liquid fills my throat. No matter what troubles you, I am here. She stands at the edge of the staircase, shaking a candlestick in hand. The steps are sticky and wet. I inch carefully, practicing actively at a crawl not to slip. My darling lifts the candle as I approach. In the dark of the house, its flickering flame almost blinds me. I don't see the expression on her face as she screams.
Marie? Where are you, my darling?
Every word feels like a dagger puncturing my throat. I limp down each hall, leaving a trail of steps that feel damp and heavy, slick and wet. I try the door to our bedroom. No, Maria's room. I had started sleeping in the spare one when my coughing fits would wake her in the night. It was cold, so cold, alone, but my darling needed her rest. The knob is slick and hard to twist, my hands slipping on the brass. Finally, I managed to push the door open. Though it's completely dark, when I peer inside, I know it is empty. No warmth, no flesh, no sound of sweet breath within. I continue down the hall. I trudge, my steps heavy and wet, trying not to slip over the thick, slick surface.
Marie? What's wrong, darling? Please come out. I don't understand.
The dining room is empty, truly empty. The shelves where the china and silverware were once neatly stacked now gape, hollow. The walnut table is covered in a thick white sheet, the matching set of chairs removed. I rest against the blanket table. My hand leaves a ruddy smear against the sheet. It must be more paint, though it's hard to make out in the dark. I had needed spectacles for quite some time, but Marie had never liked the bookish type. I continue on through the familiar yet unfamiliar house, my steps strain and slow, my breath short, sticky, wet.
Marie! Where are you?
Marie never liked the bookish type, so you decide not to get spectacles for yourself.
Oh, Marie! It hurts! Won't you come to me?
I hear the front door slam shut. It must be freezing cold out. Why has she gone to the garden? I tread to the sound with new urgency, uncaring of the sticky, wet floors, forgetting for just a moment the pain that snaps and burns through my flesh. I reach for the oily, damp knob.
Don't! Sam! Please!
Her voice rings out from behind the door.
I don't understand, darling. Have I done something to upset you?
Her sobs echo loudly. I never thought an ugly sound could come from my darling's lips, but her words.
I love you, Sam. I always will. But I can't bear to see you like this. Please, I beg of you, return to where you came. You can't be here. I've moved on now.
Oh?
What? Return where? Dearest, you aren't making any sense. Moved on? I'm your husband, Marie. What on earth is there to move on from?
Please remember, Sam. You were ill. You were ill for a long, long time. And you never recovered.
I know I'm unwell, Marie. But you said we would still... Are you leaving me? Because I can't care for you anymore? Is that it?
You left me.
Yo.
You're dead, Sam. You've been dead for more than a year.
Ooh.
If this is a joke, darling, it's a cruel one. Do you want me dead? Is that it? Am I better off dead to you?
My darling does nothing but sob behind the door. How quickly I regret my words. Oh, if only I could see her face, look into her eyes, reassure her, and see that she loves me still. I twist the knob with slick, oily hands.
No! Don't come out! Please!
On the other end, with a sharp gasp, my darling grabs the knob close, pushing the weight of her small frame against the weathered wood.
Don't come out!
All right. Here we go. Let's force the door open.
No. Not until you tell me what's going on. Are you leaving me, darling? After everything?
Uh-oh.
I need you. I need you!
My darling utters a sharp cry as the hinges groan against the frame, loosening her grip, as she stumbles back onto the cobblestone path. Oh, I'm gonna kill her, aren't I? I instantly forget her sharp words as I limp towards her side.
Marie, are you alright? I'm so sorry.
I'm not.
Stop it, Sam. I'll keep you alive. Every time I sing, I'll sing for you. I'll keep you in my song, in my art.
In my lungs, in my voice, in my spirit, in my soul, I'll keep you. Oh, but it hurts. Her shrill voice grates against the ooze, spilling forth from my ears.
It hurts. It hurts!
My head rings, my chest is a hollow cavity, slippery and wet, flowing with hot, sickly fluid. I cough and spew more syrupy, warm liquid from my lips.
Your art, it was always about you.
Oh, here comes the resentment.
Your fame, your voice, your needs, your wants, your desires. You were a work of art, of course, but did you ever think about me?
You're dead.
Did you ever think about poor Sam, dying alone in a cold, white room? Poor Sam, who couldn't even hold a brush in his hands at the end. Poor Sam, left to rot into nothing. A year was all it took for you to forget me.
Hey, shit's gotta move on, man. I am shaking her, leaving smears of dark, muddy paint over her pale shoulders. I don't think that's paint, bro. The next moment, she breaks from me, running blindly into the street. The carriage doesn't stop for her, of course it doesn't. My dearest is a wisp of dark curls, a black gown billowing in the night like a shade. She should be light as a breath, soft as mist. But the song that comes is the scream of her breaking bones, her ripping flesh, the breath that leaves her lungs.
Ha! But every sound my darling makes is beautiful.
You weirdo. I scoop her mass of flesh and deep crimson hair into my arms. Her blood pools around me, syrupy and dark, a color so deep no artist's pigment could hope to capture. The purest scarlet or vermilion red, a dual stain in comparison. It is not Sam that I see staring back in the deep pool of our blood. It's a monstrosity. My darling is a lovely creature, ever broken. I gently carry her up the steps, one slick, damp, crooked step at a time, setting her mass of jutted bones, of viscera and flesh on the velvet seat in my studio. The fabric soaks it so deep, so very deep. It's dark, as it is every night. I leave the lamps unlit, the windows shut tight. How strange that the stench of linseed oil ever bothered me. After all, I no longer breathe. My darling sits still, ever so still. Not a breath escapes her broken flesh. What a lovely model. Oh, what a wonderful thing.
All the more beautiful now that it surely hurts to sing.
Icon of agony?
Oh, it is agony to hold a brush. It always does. But I can bear it. After all, who can truly create without pain?
I guess no one could create without pain. Anything good, I guess. My dear rotting corpse. It's pretty cool art style, though. Ending 1. Muse. Alright, let's get 2 more endings. Yay. We're just gonna go to eye paint her face. I mix a tone as warm as her cheeks as I envision Marie's sweet face in my mind's eye. Her lips like roses, the graceful turn of her nose, those eyes that glittered like stars under candlelight. It's no use. I can't focus. Her features are as blurred in my mind as the mess of oil and pigment smeared across my canvas. I sigh and scrape it off with a palette knife and mix a deep blend of black and red for the background instead. I apply my paint with a generous dab of oil, but it seems I didn't have to. The canvas is still wet from last night and the night before. I must have painted and repainted the same background countless times. To say it's difficult to paint by lamplight, my muse nowhere in sight, is an understatement, of course, but lately, these nightly hours are the only time I had to find myself able to lift my brush. Alright, and now we will use these photographs. The walls are laid bare. The pictures that hung on pale wallpaper are gone. Blurry gray photographs of my parents, myself as a boy, and Marie. Oh, so many pictures of Marie, each displaying in filigree frame. Even our wedding photograph, the two of us dressed in fine clothes, I've sewn myself, smiling like fools, even while our picture was taken, for how could we wear solemn faces on such a joyous day? It's a beautiful picture. It too is gone. How I long for it. That day, when I can smile like a happy fool. Because someone decided they wanted to choose me, too. The pale wallpaper stands bare, stripped to its bone. Confused, but with nowhere else to go, I continue through my house. If I force the door open, will anything change with these options that I pick? Nope, it's the same. Alright, let's go back. Let her go. I let go of the door, my mind slicking off its oily surface.
Forgive me, Marie. I can see that you don't want to speak to me right now. But whenever you do, whatever this is about, I'll be waiting in the studio.
A studio she will never go to. I leave the door. I leave my darling alone, sobbing in the garden. It's dark, so very dark, but dawn will soon paint that dim black sky. I retrace my slick, wet footsteps through the hall, up the staircase, one trudging damp step at a time.
Spirits, it hurts.
It burns. I feel no breath in my lungs. My chest could be a hollow cavity, slippery and wet, spilling with hot, sickly fluid.
It hurts. Oh, it hurts.
I stagger into a tall, sheet-covered object, the linen sliding off with the grasp of my clumsy, slick fingers. It's Marie's floor-length mirror.
No. Oh, no. No, 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 no!
Oh my. He ain't looking too good. Must be down with the sickness. I'm in the studio, a dark, dim studio as empty as it is every night. The curtains are shut, the lamps are unlit. My palette is a mess of murky colors, rust reds, corpse browns, a musky, sickly, sweetly rotting stench fills the room. I don't know why the smell of linseed oil ever bothered me. After all, I no longer breathe. The handle of the door turns behind me. Slowly it creaks open, and a figure steps inside. It's me. He limps more than he steps in crooked motions against the floor, dragging his body along like a wet, wide brush. As swaths of red paint at his feet, I watch him pull himself before the canvas.
Samuel.
Icon of affliction. He speaks in my mother's voice, a tone that could swell with warmth or derision, command or dependency, pride or disappointment in a moment's notice.
Please, give up your suffering. Give up this. Come back to the earth with me.
My hands are too slick to hold my brush. I stab it into my flesh and fix it between my bones, then dip the bristles into his blood.
Sammy.
He speaks in my stepfather's voice, but without laughter or joy. In the same cadence I imagine him taking his last breath, crimson staining his uniform, the dog tags cold around his neck.
Don't suffer anymore, Sam. You are nothing already. Forget your pain.
Return to the void with us.
Icon of Algesia. My brush is drying. I plunge it into his chest, wet it with his oily breath.
Sam?
He speaks with my voice, hoarse and raspy and tired. So very, very tired.
This won't make you worthy of love. Not the world's, not Marie's, not your friends or peers or critics. Come back to our grave. End our suffering. You know I don't do this for love.
I clean my brush with the paint thinner, knocking over the jar as it spills across the drawer and onto the wet soaken floor. I dry the bristles of my worn, rotting shirt, then soak it in the thick, white mucus of his tears. My words are only partially true, just as his words are not fully wrong. Neither my rotting corpse or the memory of what once was Sam will gain a thing from this toil. I paint the hours away, or perhaps take no time at all. The clock on the wall never turns its hands, suggesting that the world lies still. The seconds never pass, and I am the only thing that moves within it. It hurts. Oh, it hurts. Heavy, syrupy tears flood my vision, fill my throat, my chest, choking me. Every movement of my hands leaves cracks in what's left of my brittle bones. He stares at me all the while, silent, still like a mirror. If I loved him, I would stop. I would crawl to my grave like he wishes. But I love this more than I love myself. I birth him from within me. As I create, so too am I born.
And he and I are beautiful.
That is me. Ending 2, self-portrait. And a lovely thing it is, too. Oh. Wow. Indysys did all of this. The music, the art, the story, the programming, sound design. Pretty incredible. And great voice acting as well. Do enjoy it. I like the name Mizumi. Mizumi. Alright. So, I guess there's Let Her Go. Wait. Which one did I do? I did Let Her Go in this one. Skip it. Okay. I think I would do Let Her Go in this one. Skip it. It's the same. I step through the darkness of the house, inch by inch, choking back dust and tears that threaten to spill. It's been months since I last stepped foot here, but every floorboard, every turn of its halls are as familiar to me as when sunlight once shone through the windows. Sam always opened the windows when he worked in his studio. No matter the weather, no matter how rainy or freezing cold. The same windows that now were open, gaping from the garden outside. Someone had been through this house. Everything of value I had taken with me months ago, of course, but though I could not bear to stay here any longer, I could bear it even less to let this place go. Sam had always grown up here. This place meant so much to him, and I had so many memories, housed here deep within its walls. I didn't mean to spend less and less time within them as the years went on. I didn't mean to give Sam less and less. But I did, and then he was gone. My heels clack against the wooden floorboards as my footsteps echo in the dark. I stop at the doorway of the kitchen. That old rickety shelf gapes out, empty, while the walnut table silently stands beneath a muffled sheet. On Sundays, when he wasn't off to the tailor's at the crack of dawn, we would have breakfast together. I remember how he'd sit at that table, combing through newspaper, carefully clipping out any new photographs of me that appeared. A sound snaps me out of my memories. Muffled footsteps, not mine. A voice calling out my name. My heart stops in my chest. I swear I can hear it. Him. Not the academy student in the hand-me-down green coat, full of life, nor the man who waited by my dressing room with roses, almost too shy to present them to me. And not the man in the paint-stained apron hunched over a canvas, eyes locked in concentration. The owner of the voice cannot be that man, but it has his voice. Calling out to me. My mind is playing tricks on me. It can't be. Holding my candlestick tightly, I slowly approach the staircase.
Sam?
I called, peering into the darkness above me. The outline of a figure stands, its movement slow and haggard.
Is this a dream?
A shape in the darkness, coughs and coughs again in wretched pain. I choke back my own sobs in my throat.
Is it a good dream, darling?
He finally says,
I don't know. It feels like a nightmare. An awful, wretched nightmare.
As the figure steps into view, I blink against the flickering candles and finally look at him. My darling, oh my poor, poor precious Sam. No, what's left of him? Well, yep, here we are, at the end-all be-all. Let's scream. Oh, it just ends. Ah! The end. Embrace him. Embrace your Sam. I say through my tears, climbing the staircase one shaking step at a time.
I always will.
My arms meet rotten fabric and broken flesh. My lips meet bones and blood. Take me with you, I tried to speak, but gag.
Don't cry, darling. No matter what troubles you, I am here.
My dear Sam, you look a little rough, man. Singer found dead. Beloved soprano Marie Claremont's body found in former residence. Mardi Room, acclaimed opera singer, was found dead in her former residence yesterday evening after former linked to performance at the last night. Investigation was windowed after her husband Samuel, only one to prior the pair had no children. She died for him. Ending 3. Melpomene. What does that mean? I want to know what that means. Wait. Hold on. What does that mean? Hold on, I got this. What does it mean? I want to get it. Melpomene. It's a movie character. In Greek mythology, Melpomene is the muse of tragedy, associated with the lyre in chorus. Her name comes from the Greek verb melpo, or melpome, meaning to celebrate with song and dance. She is often depicted wearing a long robe, a tragic mask, and a wreath of ivy or grapes, and holding a sword or knife. Her high belted garment and Cophorus boots were associated with tragic actors. Oh, that's pretty cool. Well, I mean, we got to learn some Greek mythology stuff. That's cool. I hope you guys enjoyed this. It's called It Paints Me, and the link is in the description below. I thought the art was absolutely gorgeous. Love the background music. It really brought us into the scenes, and then the voice acting was pretty OP. So I'm glad I got to read this. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video, and that is all. Good night.